love to see it this evening. I want to begin by telling you a little bit about myself in the political arena. I want to say that I have been an elected delegate to 9 consecutive Democratic National Conventions. But when the first time I was at a teachers meeting and I went in a room where they were electing delegates. And I said, what are they doing? They said they're electing delegates to the National Democratic Convention. And I started thinking then, that's what I want to do. And I used to see those people on TV, and I would hear the roll call of the states, and I would see all those people, and I was wondering, how did they get there? I actually thought they might have just been elected officials. I didn't realize they were the average, everyday citizen coming from their constituent districts. And so the next time the election rolled around, Barbara Campbell had placed her name in nomination to be a delegate. And I'll share a little bit about this because as we're talking about being actively involved in this arena, everybody needs to research their own state to see how you get your delegates. Some people have ballots, some people on the primary. In Georgia, we have a caucus, and you have to bring your delegates that live in your congressional district to the caucus. So it's the one who delivers the most, and then you got to get there and convince someone else. Kind of like at a general conference, you may have your own delegates, but if you're running for office, you're going to go around and talk to another delegation. But I want to share with you, that was my introduction into the Democratic National arena. And when I went to Boston, the speaker that was there that had everybody mesmerized was Barack Obama. He was Senator Obama at that convention. And I'll tell you something about Boston. We went early because I had never been to Boston. So I went in 3 days early, and they said Boston was a cold place. People were very aristocratic, and they weren't gonna be friendly. They tried to give us a warning. So we got there, got the taxi from the airport. Everybody was smiling. Then we went to a restaurant. They were smiling. They said, would you like a sample of this food? Because it was right off the ocean. And about the second day, I said, this seems like a Hollywood set. Now everybody's just smiling and being polite. Let me tell you something astonishing about what a community can do. 11,000 people volunteered to go to school to be greeters, so they could dispel the myth that Boston was a cold place. 11,000 people went to school. Can you imagine if you were hosting a general conference or a regional meeting, if 100 people went to a greeter school to learn how to greet people? And that's part of the political arena that I experienced. So I'll just share with you a little bit. And the last thing I want to share on this topic was when they had the Democratic primary debate for this election, I got an invitation to go to the debate at the Tyler Perry Studios. Oh, that's a moment in time. Actually, I had gotten married at Fort McPherson at one of the offices at the Officers Club. And so to go back and see what he had done, Tyler Perry had that room. I mean, it was just phenomenal what he had done. Your name was on your chair, hospitality reception. And I said, God, you have blessed me immensely. And what do I do with these blessings but try to be a blessing? It wasn't just for me. It motivated me to leave. And I saw the candidates up close and personal, all of them. So as we enter this arena tonight, I want to talk to you about the first slide is what is politics? And the next slide is on what is politics? Thank you. And I think you can all read that. Politics is often characterized by the way that people who are part of groups make decisions. Okay, you can take the slide off the screen, please. With that definition in mind, and another definition is that political activity is sometimes characterized by awful and dishonest practices. Next slide. And what is politics? agreement between people so they can live or exist together in groups. Now you can remove the slide and we'll have a discussion here for a few minutes, please. Okay, we just heard a definition of politics. Most people, how many of you are involved in politics? How many of you can just raise your hand, I can see your hand. How many of you don't want to be involved in politics? You think it's a dirty business? You got a negative opinion about politics. Well, I always say I get out of politics and politics gets out of me. My life is controlled by politics. They tell me how much taxes I have to pay. They tell me the value of my home, and it's different from the market value. The tax value is high, and my market value is not that high. They tell me I have to pay school tax in DeKalb no matter what age we are. I'm not eliminated from taxes because it's based on your income. They tell you you can't drive your car unless you have a tag on it. Is that an example of politics? Who controls that politics? You all can talk.
Politicians.
And who controls politics? It's under the umbrella of the government. Under the umbrella of the government. A large portion of your life, how fast you can drive on the expressway. A large portion of your life, when you go to a grocery store, does everybody take taxes on their groceries?
Mm-hmm.
When you go get gas, the government, in essence, controls what's going on at the pump based on the countries that we're dealing with, based on how we're negotiating. So the question is, can you get away from politics? Can you get away from it?
No.
Can you want to expound a little bit on that?
No, you really can't get away from politics because of the federal and state government that introduces all the policies that we have to abide by. You said if it's a federal highway, got to pay federal tax. If it's a state road or state highway, we've got to pay a state tax and so forth. So politics is really for like-minded people coming together to make those rules and regulations to have an orderly society. So yes, we have to have those kind of laws to make it happen.
Okay, very good answer. And it also, it's an agreement between people so they can live or exist together in your home, in your community, you know, just so you can exist some kind of order. It's almost like we come up with a Robert's rule of order for politics. Okay, let's look at the next slide where politics can be found. I really thank the person who's assisting. Thank you so much, Eric. The slide, where can politics be found? Okay, can you do part of the screen on that, or does it have to take the whole screen? Whatever's easy, don't worry about it. I'll go back over it. Okay, where politics can be found, you can see the screen. And I'm gonna ask you about where it is in your family, just a brief statement, where it is in your church, where it is in your community, and we have a lady who's single, with a single family, and what benefits she needs. So you can move it over, thank you. Take it down, please. Where politics can be found. Is it in the family?
Oh, yes.
It's in the family. I need someone to tell me, how is it in the family?
Here again, it's all according to how strong your brothers and sisters are.
Okay.
You know, you can have a strong brother or sister who determines where you're going to have your family reunion, where you're going to do this and so forth. So it doesn't exist in the family.
Negotiated in the family. Husband might pay, I'll pay the mortgage, and the wife might say, well, I'll buy the groceries. Or the wife might say, I'll pay the mortgage, and you buy the groceries. You divide up the chores, you divide up responsibilities, you plan for things. So family gatherings, are we coming to your house this year for Thanksgiving? Or are we going to Uncle Tom's house for Thanksgiving? We have a lot of negotiation. Even in our church, I hate to ask you, but do we have politics in the church?
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Do we all participate in it?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
How many people on this line are officers in the church or the district or the region. And how'd you get to be an officer?
You ran for election
You ran for election.
and
Sometimes you're
convinced people to do the
appointed.
job.
Yeah, but you see it's there. Okay, we go on to political action. We want to get to the, okay, I heard somebody talking, please share. Okay, we're gonna go to political action. And I want somebody to read what you see on the screen when it comes up. What is political action? Okay. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Action designed to attain a purpose using political power or by activity in political channels, specifically energy expended and participation in party organizations, in elections, and by lobbying.
Okay, good. We're gonna come back. The next slide. Causes worthy of political action. Someone shared that who has not shared with us this evening. What are some of the causes that are worthy of our political action? Can you all see the screen?
Healthcare.
Help, very essential.
Voter
Suppression.
suppression.
Look at those figures on there. Eligible voters, unable to vote is what it says. 47%. Somebody read that chart.
47% Hispanic voters,
Mhm,
42% Black voters,
mhm.
and 29% white voters.
Suppression. All right. What are some other things that we have political action for?
Racism.
Racial equality.
Racial equality. We want to stop it. It's very strong, as the General Secretary was saying, it's very prevalent right now. People have felt empowered to be racist, and we know why. Okay, what else? What else do you see? Equal rights. What else is on there?
Welfare benefits.
Okay. You know, all right, you can move the screen. You can take that slide up. I worked with the Catholics for Democrats this year, Kevin Haley, because I was the caucus chair for the state. He reached out to me, and I reached out to others, including my bishop, to be on that line. I was really impressed to see Catholics for Democrats. What impressed me about that and stunned me and surprised me? What was refreshing and stunning about seeing that? Don't think too deep. It's no wrong answer.
How about with just Bruce Benson? How's everyone? How about the president is a staunch Catholic and his
Okay.
abortion, and a lot of Catholics are against him because of that stance on abortion.
Okay.
And this is Barbara Lee. I think Catholics are usually thought of as being very conservative.
Okay. And just the fact that when we had Obama, I don't think I ever saw CMEs for Obama.
No.
No.
He was a black person. The Catholics, they talked about the issue that they had in their own church when they started this group. But they said God just put something on their heart. And it was stronger than what the Catholic Church would say. They said they took a chance, and they didn't realize how many people. Now, they were in Georgia online, and people from all over the country online. And they talked about the position on abortion, but they also said that Democrats provide a quality of life for those after they get here. They talked about how they provide a life for you after a child is born. I'm just leaving that with you because it's going to be an ongoing dialogue. We've decided to continue it, but just to see Catholics and then they asked me, they said, Barbara, do you know any Catholics in Georgia that you can invite to come on next week? Because we met every week. And I'm like, Lord, how many Catholics do I know? And I thought I didn't know 10, not well enough to call. But what was that? That was another denomination reaching out for community impact, community coming together. They were reaching out to the Methodists, and they allowed our leaders, our General Secretary of Evangelism to speak, our bishop to speak. And I mean, it was a warm reception. So let's look at the next page. What can and should laity do to answer the call to political action? The next screen, please. Someone share that with us, please.
Answer the call.
Let's see. What can, should laity do? Answer the call to political action, which is a continuous call to action. Know and understand our form of government.
And what do you see coming out of that democracy?
Rights, people, voting, individualism, politics, majority.
Okay. What can we do? Know and understand. Okay. Slide over. Next slide. Someone share that.
Know, understand, and teach that democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Exercise your right to make decisions and teach others that political action means that we must always vote. Can I note to that? We first must register and then vote.
Exactly. You can move the slide. Let me say, do you know that you can slide, only 59% of the people in this country voted in this election?
Mm-hmm.
And that's more than voted in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And African-American males really increased their voting. African-American males, I won't even tell you the statistics for 2016, they were so low. Women, African-American women vote 85 to 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And we were the last ones to get the right to vote.
Mhm.
We didn't get the right to vote in 1920. We weren't even allowed to vote. But we influence voting and we vote. If the laity understands that democracy is of the people, what's the second thing?
By the people and for the
For
people.
the people.
How many of you learned that in elementary school?
Elementary school.
We
Absolutely.
learned that when we were young. A government of, for, and by.
Right.
But if you don't participate, then you can't blame anybody but yourself.
True.
So it's important that we exercise our right to make decisions.
Dr. Barbara,
Yes.
a question. We look at that and we look at our school system on today. When I was coming along in school, we had government, civics, and now the school has gotten integrated. So now I believe a lot of that has to do with our education as far as civic and government.
Okay.
Because that's no excuse, but we should get the word out. But the statistics are that there are more women that vote than males. So we have to work on that as ladies, men.
And I
You
think
know,
you brought up a very good point.
Dr.
What
Campbell.
can the laity do? What can the laity do? The laity can educate the church members. You can have educational sessions. You can bring people in to talk with the laity. You can get information out. You can create a newsletter. First of all, the laity needs to make sure everybody in your family is registered to vote. I look at the census. The census is going to be real low. I know Dr. Harry sent out several notices. I did. The census count, which determines how many congresspersons we're going to have.
Yeah. Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
I think you need also more people like Stacey Abrams, who got really the black female vote out in this last election. Of course, they got a lot of black males, but it was her stardom that really pulled people together, first of all, to get people to register and get people to the polls. And that's the physical thing you have to do in order to be involved in politics and make sure your candidate wins. So
It's
you
important.
got to shine a light on people like her who were able to do that in this last election.
And Stacey Abrams lived in the area of Shai Temple, my church, before we moved. We hosted annually town hall meetings for Stacey Abrams breakfast.
How can we get her to come to CME? She's so
I don't even know
close.
we can get her to come back to the church now. She is so busy with that fair fight. But But my point is, that's something a lay person can do. Invite your representative in for breakfast, a community breakfast. Invite them in, and it's nonpartisan. You have a breakfast. You invite. Now we know we can't do it right now because of the pandemic, but you can have that information. You can have them on a forum, sponsor them on a forum. You know, so Stacey Abrams ironically was running against the person who is now governor, who was in charge of the votes. He was the Secretary of State. He was actually in charge of the votes being counted and got rid of 500,000 people off of the roll because they hadn't voted in 2 years or 3 years or some other reason. And she didn't need but 50 to win. He got rid of 500,000. So I think you make a good point. Now, as we go through this presentation, we're going to find out more about what else we can do. Steps to take to be engaged in political action and a continuous call to action. I'm just going to read this. Number one, you can put that on the screen. And I want you to look at one, look at these, each one of these numbers as they come up, 1 through 6. Know who your local legislators and politicians are. You can wake me up at 12 o'clock at night and I can tell you my senator is Emmanuel Jones, Senate District 10. I can tell you my representative is Pam Stevenson, House District 90. How many of you can just do that? How many of you can say they know you and you know them, that you've actually talked to them before we have a problem? You call. We just had an election and introduce yourself. Okay, number 2. Know how to contact them. I have their cell numbers. They don't mind giving you their home number, their cell number, or their office number. Identify an issue you care about. Georgia's in session right now. We got a number of issues that we're talking about. Attend your city council or commission meeting. They're online. You can do it much easier now. Just know when they're going to meet. Mobilize other people to support your cause. Join a voting league or political organization. Now, you may say, I'm a Democrat, but have you ever been to a Democratic meeting? Okay, you can take it down. All counties have a political party. And this can be nonpartisan. But have you ever been to your political party's meeting? Most of them have to meet every quarter, according to DNC. They have to meet. Your city council is right in your neighborhood. Do you know when they meet? You can actually get them to send you the minutes or what happened action items to your home or email it to you. And if you don't know who your representatives are, it's going to make it hard for you to do a call to action. Where would you find that information? Where would you find out where it is?
You can call the League of Women Voters. You can call your state Department of Voter Registration.
Right.
Or they listed themselves also in the phone book.
And you can also get your voter registration card. So it'll be listed on your card or email. I mean, when we have a meeting with some of you, I can see you think about who is my representative? That's a good question. Who is my senator? Now you voted for somebody. You may have voted for somebody because somebody else told you to vote for them, which is not always bad. Because when people call me from the church and ask me who to vote for, I've already called Representative Billy Mitchell and Representative Stan White. So I got to call people. I don't know everybody, but I know somebody who knows somebody. So when they ask you that, okay, comment.
Yes, on every Tuesday, my city council person have a meeting with his neighborhood. We're in District 9, and we have a District 9 meeting every Tuesday night. And he'll make call before the meeting and remind. It's a robocall, but they'll remind you that every Tuesday night we're on the line with our council person, and he have different people coming in talking to us about different things from the police department, health department, just things of that nature. So he's really good at that.
That's excellent. Is that where Reverend Hardy is?
No, this is Reverend, not Reverend, but Mr. Hilliard, John.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you know in your district where you live, how many elected officials are CMEs?
Yes.
I want to give you a little homework.
No.
I want you to research your district, your area, to see how many CME representatives do we have that are elected. I want you to do that. And make a list of it. And we want to share back with it. And I have a point here I'm going to with that. But just see, whether it's a school board, city commissioner, city councilor, tax commissioner, see how many CMEs that you know of that we have elected. Now, before the pandemic, we had our annual CME day at the Capitol during the legislative session.
Mm-hmm.
Annually. And guess what we did? We made some of them honorary CMEs.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a good thing to do. Honorary CMEs. And then, like Emmanuel Jones, he was our speaker. He said, don't forget now, I'm one of you all. You all made me a CME. You know, sororities do it, fraternities do it. They make honorary members. Why can't we make some honorary CMEs? And you never know, that honorary CME, they may be so impressed, they may become a CME. Have you thought about that? Is that something you can do?
Sure.
Now we had the bishop with us, but if they come to your church, the pastor has that same authority. We're just talking honorary CME. Mobilize more people to support your cause. We had the whole United States supporting Raphael Warnock and also cars from California. I mean, it was a mobilization. We can't win anything by ourselves. Now, what group could you work with if you were trying to get a local election done? Other than CMEs, who else can you work with? Who else would you have worked with in the future? Who will you work with in your community?
Dr. Campbell, I have worked with different people, different denomination, racial, white. Of course, I'm the commissioner on public housing for HUD here in my city.
Okay.
Also, we have to cross barrel and work with different people, you know, to get elected and then get some taxes and revenues passed, and also Avalon passed. I was on the school board, built a new school. So we have to work with different types of people in order to get things passed.
And we said that we talk about different cultures and different races. Let me say, Shaw Temple sold the church that we were in, and we bought another church, and then we had to get it zoned. So Reverend Clemens got all the members to fill the rooms for that zone. They had to bring in more chairs. Was that a call to action?
Absolutely.
And we had shown up. So when they came in, they saw me sitting at a head table with some of the zoning people. And they texted me and said, Barbara, what are you doing sitting up there? Shouldn't you be? I said, I'm on the zoning commission. I'm on it. That brings another question. Can we identify people that we think would be good candidates to run for office in our churches, in our community? Have we identified anybody? You know, somebody went to Martin Luther King. They went to his house and got him. They went to get him. They remember him from Dexter Baptist Church. Do we look for anybody to run for office? And you know, we have a lot of people who are former ministers who have Raphael Warnock, a pastor. Why was Raphael Warnock role as a pastor? Why did that make him a good candidate?
One, because he had a relationship with the community.
Community relationship, working with people. That's one thing the Democratic Party is looking for. They have a group called a whole chairperson, looking for people who want to run for office. You may say, I don't know where to get started. And as we look at our ages, we got to bring some younger people on board. Why? Because they've got longevity, they've got the energy, we got the know-how, we can tell them what to do, and they can do it. But we need to be thinking about identifying people who we know will make a good commissioner, a good sheriff. We need to look at our own committee. Our call to action is important. Going to that zoning committee is important. You don't know what they're putting up in your neighborhood. You might have too many Dollar Trees. You might have too many Family Dollars, but they don't put them out there without a zoning committee. And they got to post the signs.
Absolutely.
Is that a call to action?
Absolutely.
Stabilize your neighborhood, keep your property values up. Is that a call to action? Think about these things that you can do. Now, every zoning commission in the district, they have a person who represents the whole district. If you don't go, you can get that list of that person who represents your district and tell them your opinion, so that the person on the zoning is not speaking as an individual, they're speaking representing a community. And communities can show up. Since I've been on that board, I'm really impressed with the number of communities that get people to come and they stop some bad legislation from going on. I want to say also a call to action. How many of you heard that one of the heirs of Publix donated $300,000 for the rally? How many of you heard of Publix? PUBL. It's a grocery store.
Grocery store. Yeah,
I heard
We need to fact check businesses that we do business with.
that's right.
You know, as much as I love Publix, until we get this ironed out, I'm going to Kroger. We need to fact check. Georgia Power in Georgia, they gave $500,000 to the other party and gave us 50. We need to fact check things like that. A call to action. And while we're talking, I want to tell you another good ally that we need to talk with, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A works with education, scholarships, communities. You know, Chick-fil-A isn't even open on Sunday. If you got a Chick-fil-A in your neighborhood, I want to ask you to talk to someone. I did the Chick-fil-A tour, and actually their headquarters is right here in Atlanta. And you drive through the African-American neighborhood. They didn't put it in Buckhead, a rich area. They bought that land. They probably got 50 acres out there. So working with businesses is another way of a call to action. I want to say, let me go to the next page. Next page, please. I want you to look at what we should be passionate about and some areas that we need to do a call to action. Now, in addition to being politically involved, you can organize your own events. I want y'all to look at vessels. That's a document that tells you what a church can do. Walk, knock on doors. We had 2 groups that knocked on 42,000 doors during the campaign. Can you believe that? They knocked on that many doors. And take the slide out. Take the slide out now. Let me say, there's a program that tells you what house is Democrat and what house is Republican. Vote Builder. What did I say? Vote Builder. And all of your state parties have that Vote Builder. You know how you're afraid to knock on somebody's door, you don't know what they may say to you and how you want to be received? Well, you can know that you're knocking on a Democratic door. May not be the reception, but at least you know you got one thing in common. And when they teach you what to say, but this is how refined this whole market is now. You can get these programs that tell you what support, who lives there. The census didn't do that. The voting, there's a lot of information based on your social security number and your voting record. Because when you register to vote, they ask you, are you voting what? Democrat, Republican, or independent? So the information is out there. I want you to think about your involvement, starting with, I think, what Ken said. I know everybody on this line is registered. But until you find 5 more people and register them, you still not doing what you need to do. You can still find 5 people. I started doing drive-bys. Keep voter registrations in my trunk. My niece was riding with me one Saturday and finally she said, Aunt take me home. I'm not gonna keep doing this. This is embarrassing. I said, well, we've been received well. Nobody said anything ugly to, nah, I can't do this. You know, they don't know what we've been through to get where we are. That's why I can't do it. But she had to ride with me till I took her home. When I go to a hotel and check into the hotel, when the bellman is taking my luggage out, I said, excuse me. I said, oh, you know, we got an election coming up. Are you ready to vote? Ma'am, I said, are you ready to vote? No, ma'am. I said, oh, I got a registration card right here in my trunk. Keep them in your car. Keep them, you can do it online, but it's nothing like having it in your car. They put it in the mail. You don't know, go to the, you check out groceries. Just be real subtle, real short, give a smile, not overpowering, and people are going to do it. If you get 3 out of 10, you've done well. So let's talk about some things we can be passionate about before this congressman. You know, the Voting Rights Act that protected voter suppression for 14 states was taken away from us. There's a bill, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Everybody needs to make a note. You need to call your congressman and say, support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I don't care if he's black, white, Hispanic, Indian, you need to call. And you know what's so nice when you go online to write a letter to a congressman, the letter comes out, the form comes up already. All you gotta do is fill it in and send it. We need thousands of people saying vote for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We need thousands of people saying eliminate the Electoral College. Once we vote, we have voted. How do you feel about that? Let me hear some feedback on those two. This is the call to action. How do you feel about those two?
I think
I haven't heard a lot of voices tonight. I see pretty faces and handsome faces.
I think we didn't really know a lot about the Electoral College until the previous election with Donald Trump. I think most people had no idea what the Electoral College was. We just assumed that the votes that we were putting in, or what was considered to be the popular vote, is the votes that were electing, you know, our officials.
That's a good point. Excellent point. And we have decided if it's a government of the people, for the people, by the people, we don't need the Electoral College. We do not need it. When Donald Trump won, there were a group of us who went to the Capitol just to witness them voting for him. They locked us out of the Capitol. It was cold. They would not let us in. We had to go across the street to a park. So the Electoral College, that's an education. It's an education for any mind, not only Black history. Eric, you raised a good point of teaching. Can lay people, can you teach about the Electoral College? All the information you need is at your fingertips. It's right there. You get one for every congressional person, like in your district. And it's, no matter how big your state is, they're only going to give you 2 senators, and that's a balance. Washington, D.C. is trying to become a state. We have anybody on here from the 7th? They got legislation now to make, do you want Washington, D.C. to be a state, Bruce?
Yes, I'm from Washington, D.C. This is Barbara Lee. I'm a
Okay.
native Washingtonian. And we are just so sick and tired of Congress negating our laws that we, because they overturned some of the laws that we make for our own city.
You got a good chance this year.
We
You got
really
a good
don't
chance.
have representation we have a shadow senator, and we have a representative who can sit in the House of Representatives, but his vote doesn't count for anything.
Right. But you got a friend now in the president and the vice president. This is a good year. Can you all do a call to action about that?
Yes.
When you do a call to action, who are you calling? How many people can you call? How many people can you contact? How would you do it? How can you do it?
Well, first thing is I think I'd mobilize some of my church members to start helping me, members of my lay council,
Okay,
and start calling
okay,
our ward, our various ward representatives, our council person.
okay.
And there are many of us
And
who
you
have
know what?
friends who live and relatives who live in other states, and ask them to contact
Exactly,
their congressmen, their senators, their representatives
exactly.
to vote for statehood for DC.
So do you want me to call Congressman Hank Johnson and ask him to vote for statehood for DC?
Yes.
Do you? Well, then you need to ask me.
Would you please, everybody on this line tonight, please call your congressperson and ask them to vote for statehood for the citizens of Washington, D.C.
For statehood. See, the task is to ask. Can you write that down? The task is to ask.
Mhm.
And I'm going to do it.
It's easy.
I know Hank Congressman Johnson real well. We first name, I know him well. But I'm going to still call and let him know that one of the members from DC was on a call and she asked me, I'm going to do that. How many of you would do that?
I'll do
It's
it.
one thing to ask, it's another thing to do.
Mhm.
Secretary
you
wants to
can
know what
email
are
them
we going
also.
to do?
You can
Email.
email because
You can email.
they pay
You
attention
can
to those
email more
emails.
than one time.
That's right.
All right, they check them. I'm telling you. Now that brings me to another question. I want another statement about call to action. Our General Secretary has supported the Congressional Black Caucus evangelistic or ecumenical breakfast for the last 2 years. The room is full. Every African American congressman is there and their staff, and every state is represented, and every table. And we've had the opportunity to have our denomination represented in that arena. And you get to go around and meet people and talk to people. And that's a good thing. And if you already know your congressman in, we're not going to have it this year, but if we were, we would definitely be going. But I'm going to make sure we get information that you can do online so that they know that the CME church is involved. I know President Obama had the AME church to come to the White House. We are doing just as much. We just keep it a secret. We don't brand ourselves. We're just as smart, just as innovative, and I know we pay just as much money. I know there's no doubt about that. So what are some of the things we're gonna do when we leave this call tonight? What were some of the things we said we would do? Doing a little check now. What are we gonna do? We got this call. What are we gonna do?
Contact our Congress people.
Contact your congressman, introduce yourself, what else?
Well, we're supposed to contact our congresspersons so that we can ask for statehood for DC.
All right, and we talk about the Electoral College and also the Voting Rights Act. Because when we go back to the Lay Institute, we're gonna have a checkpoint. See how many things we were able to get done. What about your state representative and your state senator? What about that? What are you gonna do?
Get to know them.
Get to know them.
Yeah.
Call them. And it's so nice to call somebody before you have a problem. Isn't it nice? Say, I just want to introduce, let somebody give me the script, what you can say when you call and you've never talked to them before. What's the script you could say? Come on, Mr. Baker. What could you say?
You could introduce yourself and say you voted for them. Let them know that you voted for them and you're supportive of them. And I think that's a good start.
That's a very good start. Introduce yourself and tell them where you live. They know their street addresses. They know that zip code. I live in this, I live here, and I want to work with you on things that you want to get supported. Introduce yourself. What else are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to find out how many CME elected officials we have? Deborah, I should have had you keeping some notes for real. Deborah, I should have had you keeping some good minutes for real. But I got enough for my checkpoint. You're gonna find out.
Dr.
Now,
Campbell.
how many people know it's some CMEs elected right now? You know somebody.
I don't know.
Who do you know, Mr. Brooks? Who do you know?
Well, in our church, we have one of the local commissioners is a member of our church.
Right. So you need to get his name, his address, and everything. Get that information so we can keep up with how many we have. And what's your district?
I'm in, my church is in Sharon Hill, Darby Township.
Okay.
Actually, the 7th district, U.S.
Okay, the 7th district. Okay. And I know Mr. Penn has someone in his district. Ms. Crenshaw's already told us about someone she has. Mr. Moffitt, now you got one in your church, right?
Not in my church, no.
Yes, you do.
Oh, well, we got a school board member.
That's an elected person.
Our pastor, Reverend Mahone, is a school board member.
You got an elected official right in your church.
Okay. I also know, not in my church, but I also know Sanford Bishop.
Sanford Bishop.
I also know Calvin Smyre.
Calvin Smyre.
And
Calvin Smyre is the longest serving legislator, I believe, in the United States. House of Representatives for the state. Isn't he the longest one?
Well, in Georgia for sure.
I think he's a little bit beyond that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, because he's got recognition at the state capitol. So you got you got 3 you can list, somebody else. So we up to 5.
Yeah, Calvin Hughley, I know her. And
Eric, put me back in the group.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, you know, actually, we in the 7th Episcopal District have, I don't have anybody locally, but Representative Johanna Hayes, who
Johanna.
Who is serving her 2nd term as a representative in the House of Representatives.
And she's going to be a speaker for the executive board for the missionaries.
Oh, wow.
So she'll be speaking next week for the missionaries.
Dr. Campbell?
Yeah.
This is Willie Robinson from the West Coast. Good evening, everyone. There are 2 members on this from the West Coast who have a pastor that's serving in elected office. He's on the school board.
All right.
I don't want to speak for them, though. Dr. David Isom.
Okay.
The Fairfield Unified School District School Board.
Okay. And he's spoken, and he's really the designer of that new logo for the CME Church. He designed the one with the color and everything, so he has credibility there again. So we need to why do we need to do this? Eric, put me back in the group.
Dr. Campbell.
Put me off the main screen. Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Campbell, can you hear?
Yes.
Yes, Walter Prater from the Anniston District. We have Dr. Barbara Boyd. She served on the Judiciary Committee. She served in District 32.
Okay.
Anniston District.
Will you get that information so we can compile it?
All right, sure will.
All right, we're going to close out. Let me just say, Eric, I'm trying to get back in the whole little square. I'm trying to get back in yeah, that's fine. Let me just say this. Tonight, we have talked about several things we can do to be active, a call to action, a call for political involvement. Now, and when we walk away, we don't have a takeaway. We had a wasted hour. We have to walk away with a mission in mind. And we have to get this done. And it needs to be ongoing. We can send out through email, follow up, because we just one session. This is such a good group because you were passionate about it because you knew what the topic was and you signed on and you came on. So we have an interesting group here that we could just almost start a little caucus group with the names. Did we sign in anywhere so we know we got an official record here of everybody on this call?
Avis.
We probably could
Yeah,
just put it
because
into the chat.
I have everyone's name. Yes.
excellent. So
Yes.
we can do a follow-up.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I just want to say tonight, your participation, that we're not just talking about politics, we're talking about action. We're talking about a call to action. We're talking about a ministry that will help change a community. I also want to emphasize that this is also social concerns, my lay people. The fourth Sunday in this month, you need to have something in that agenda, on that bulletin. You need to have something that you're going to say about social concerns. And one call to action we need to make sure we got a social concerns chairperson in every church. We need to make sure, and we need that list, we need to make sure every church has a social concerns chairperson. Because issues that we have are so dominant in terms of being social. And we need to realize that this month, you're supposed to be doing an NAACP drive. I like to see, some of you didn't know that, but now you do. It's one thing not to know, but once you know, you can't hide. So it's in honor of Bishop Graves. So we need to see how many renewals or how many people can we sign up for the NAACP. Is that a call to action?
Yes.
It's a call to action. NAACP is working when we're not working. So you got a number of things to do, and I'm hoping we'll get those back out to those. Now, when we send it out to you, what you gonna do with it?
Sure.
Share it.
Share it. That's part of our focus, seeking, sharing, studying, serving. You need to share it. If your district person is not here or your region, we need to share it. Now, I think we got about 10 things that we said we were going to do. If you do 7, I won't be mad. If you just do 7 out of 10. And if you can't give it to somebody else who can. I think what we've experienced tonight is that we have a lot of people who want to do the right thing, who want to do something to help someone else, because we know that this is a what? A ministry. Is it not?
Yes, it is.
Jesus was a social agent. That was his ministry. So this is our ministry. You have been such a good audience. Our time is about up. I am so glad that we had active engagement. I am so glad that we got people who are going to do something. You're not going to say that was good. No, you're going to say, I'm going to do good. Like, what did John Lewis say about some good trouble? He talked about some good trouble. So we're going to do a follow-up on with Dr. Harris. We're going to find out, did you do some of the things that we asked you to do tonight? I like Eric. Eric is already talking about making sure people know what the Electoral College is and educating. And we're talking about statehood for DC. We're talking about the drive that we have in our denomination for the NAACP. We're talking about making sure every church has a social concern, and it's going to be a lay person. That's our role as laity, to join and to make sure that we have this recognition. And I'll be sending you information on the Black Caucus through our General Secretary. Maybe we can put it out in a newsletter or just put it on our website, because all the officers have an opportunity to post something so we can get that done. So I thank you for your attention, your involvement, and I appreciate you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harris, Dr. Clifton Harris, I turn it over to you now.
Let's give Dr. Campbell a hand. All righty. Well, Barbara, you did a wonderful job. Dr. Campbell, thank you so very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And engaging everyone the way that you did. And I pray that you took notes and that we won't let this just go by the wayside. if we in our churches don't step up and become active, a lot of people are afraid of what you call politics, but there were enough examples. And if you want the presentation, I'm sure Dr. Campbell doesn't mind if you have it. You would, what you might want to do. Eric, do you have the information on that you can put on the screen? They can email you and you send them the email, you send them the presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yes, Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
could you do a outline of the 10 things that you have mentioned that you would like for us to try to accomplish by the next meeting? Just a short outline.
I'll do the talking point speech. I will do that. I've been making notes, so I'll do that.